And a warm welcome to everyone who has joined this afternoon. It's amazing to see all of your faces, and I'm so excited. I love our town halls. It's a chance for the entire NCOPS community to informally connect and get updates on our beloved school. And we have a lot to talk about today, and we're going to try to keep it to 45 minutes to be respectful of your time. But in the tradition of NCOPS, I would like to begin with a reading, and it is by the author James Baldwin. It is the responsibility of free people to trust and to celebrate what is constant. Birth, struggle, and death are constant. And so is love, though we may not always think so. And to apprehend the nature of change, to be able and willing to change. I speak of change not on the surface, but in the depths, change in the sense of renewal. But renewal becomes impossible if one supposes things to be constant that are not. Safety, for example, money or power. One clings then to chimeras, by which one can only be betrayed, and the entire hope, the entire possibility of freedom disappears. I thought that the themes of change and renewal were fitting for today's meeting and for the season that we're in. When I think about the town halls that we've had over the past year, I think we had a discussion earlier today that the last time we met, we were just beginning to think about or begin planning programming in the Everglades. And we were all just completely holding our breath as to whether or not, we were able or going to be able to run courses safely. And many of us were in our own personal quarantines or our own solo missions. And I put on this t-shirt to remind us of what the past year was like. But I think the NCOPS community never lost hope or faith or the ability to embrace change. And today we see that the grip of the pandemic is loosening, at least in the US. Many of us are returning to some semblance of careful but normal life. And that is nowhere more true than at NCOBS and in the mountains, where we have students in the field, our staff is engaged, and we are totally coming back. So right now we've got 2 group programs out there. And in fact, our board chair, Kent Satterfield, is not with us this afternoon because he's course instructing right now. So talk about leading by example. We're starting a veterans course in the Outer Banks this weekend. Charlotte Unity courses, which I know is a passion point for many on this call. I see Rufus there. Those courses are starting on June 7th. So we have a lot to talk about over the next 45 minutes. I'll give one other quick update before I hand it over to our interim ED, Ken Lawson. I know many of you are waiting with bated breath for news on what's happening with the search for our new executive director. And I have really good news to share, in fact. I'm pleased to tell you all that the process for our new ED has gone very, very well. We have 3 amazing finalists, and we're now checking references and doing the last minute steps before we make a final decision. And we are completely hopeful and optimistic that we will have a new ED in place this summer. So on all fronts, NCOMS is, we are full steam ahead, and I'm going to let Ken Lawson and our amazing team take it away.
Thank you, Sanji. And Sanji, thank you for your leadership as our vice chair on our board and what you do every day to help our group move forward, because we're an NCOPS family really matters. And like you said, Kent Satterfield, our board chair, is in the field right now on a course, right? You're here with us. Whether you are a board member, staff member, alumni, we are one family. And I'm really excited about what we do together. In fact, as the interim executive director, I'm excited that I've been able to be a bridge over the last several months from who we were to who we will be for our new ED. But what we can never forget, our core values, what we stand for, how it's about helping someone love themselves, love others, and know they can do more. And in the last several months, as I've been part of the NCOPS family as interim ED, I've made sure I've gone out to the field and see our people. Hey, Sabrina, kick that picture up, show everybody. With the Table Rock, right? And when I was at Table Rock, go ahead, Sabrina. If you can see this photograph, I was in a dipping pool with Doug White. So myself, Doug, and Josh Winokur, when I went to see our people, check on them, hear about training, And they said, come on, be part of our traditions. I said, heck yeah, and swung into the water and jumped in. And I'm a Florida boy, so I was freezing, okay? But the thing is, we're all one. And it's about making sure our traditions are honored and we continue to move forward towards the future and evolve. And with COVID, we've evolved from not having courses to going back to the field, to having students and doing things to ensure that we are safe for our staff and our students, and following protocols that really matter, that allow us to share our core values. And Alex, I think you're on the call right here. And if you would, as our safety director for NCOPS, give folks an update about what we're doing to ensure that we protect our people. Alex?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, so, the protocols and processes for running safe courses have been changing pretty quickly throughout the months, but we've got a good system in place that'll be more or less running through the summer. All our participants are going to get lab molecular tests before they show up. We're doing quick antigen tests on day one. For longer courses, we're doing another round of tests with a batch PCR test. And that kind of series will then allow us to stop masking and distancing on those longer courses after a week or so, which really gives that extra level of personal experience and interpersonal experience on course, while still being a really kind of in-depth process to protect folks. We've had a lot of success so far. Folks are learning the systems. We haven't had any positive tests from staff or students. And, we're also focusing a lot on the things that aren't COVID related, making sure we're getting folks back up to speed with things like student management and rock climbing skills and all those other pieces that are just as essential. And I just was finishing up our first trimester report on safety for OBUSA and looking at our incidents for the year so far. And folks are doing a good job out there. It's been relatively quiet, a few policy violations, minor medical things have come up. But our staff are getting out there and doing a great job. And we've also been really focusing safety-wise on the stress level and mental health of our field staff. And we had some proactive things in place and realized we needed a little bit more. And the HR folks have really done a great job of reaching out. We have something called an employee assistance plan that provides mental health services. And we brought in a former staff member to provide some both group and one-on-one support to our folks at base camp last week. And Styles really led the charge on making sure that happened. So yeah, that's kind of the quick overview of safety so far this year.
Alex, thanks for the overview. You're doing a great job. And Alex reflects, our people and how our people have really been focused on ensuring that we are able to get back to the field and do it the right way. But, in preparing for the future, our family, our NCOPS family, have really been working on different projects to ensure that we continue to evolve towards the future. Like, for instance, we've had a town office. We have a team of folks who work on Salesforce. This is basically a computer program to help us understand data, students, forecasts, so we can make the right decisions about future courses. Or our strategic plan working group, where board members and staff members have come together and ask ourselves, what's our mission in today's world based on our core values? What's our vision in today's world based on our core values? And how can you ensure that we're moving forward, but never forget who we are? So our team, our family has really expressed themselves, whether board members or staff members, they're focused on remembering who we are and moving forward. And with that, thinking about who we are and what we're doing, I get an update on programs from Styles. Styles, you're at Table Rock right now?
Mute Zoom.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah,
what's going on?
I'm at Table Rock. And before I talk about Table Rock, there are other cool, exciting things happening in the school. The Outer Banks program, we just ran our staff training down there, and I see them on Zoom, but they are down in the OBX getting ready for their season to start. There's 4 or 5 folks down there. The team over at the Cedar Rock Base Camp in Brevard has started opening up base camp, and they will kick off their season at the end of the month with a base training. And then we'll have Alexis and the Charlotte Unity folks up for the first course of the season out of Cedar Rock coming in June. Daryl Roberts, who's in Atlanta, has been working really hard with the Atlanta school programs as well as American Explorers. And there's lots of good things happening down in Atlanta with community-based programming. Here at Table Rock, we opened this base camp in mid-February. And since then, we've had 20 courses in the field, serving a little bit over 200 students so far this season. We had a successful 50-day outdoor educator course that we actually hired 2 of the students to work for us this season here at Table Rock. And we also ran a domestic semester that started in the Everglades in mid-February and ended here at the end of April, which was also really successful. It's been really awesome to have students and staff back at base camp, and I am continued every day to be floored and humbled and overwhelmed by how it has been just so impactful for folks to be together interacting in a human to human way again and getting to know strangers person to person. The ability to connect has been huge, both for staff and students. We also did a 2-week block of staff trainings up here for everyone at the end of February, beginning of March. Those trainings included returning staff, instructor skills, which focused heavily on COVID protocols, what it looks like to instruct in the field with students wearing masks and maintaining distance. We did a rock climbing skills training, river skills training, our course director training, and we also did several days of diversity, equity, and inclusion training with our staff. People here are overwhelmingly positive and thrilled to be back working after a year off. We have a much smaller team this year, which is not a surprise after having a year off. There were quite a bit of staff that chose to go back to school, etc. But there's definitely a spirit of support and collaboration happening amongst base camps through the TO, Charlotte, Atlanta, etc. I think it speaks volumes that our board chair is out in the field with a bunch of 8th graders right now. We have new leadership team back in the town office here at Table Rock and here at Cedar Rock and over at Cedar Rock, and that's been inspiring a lot of change and thoughtful decisions around how we move forward and how we continue to grow and develop students and staff. Like Alex said, there's been a huge emphasis on health and wellness, especially at the base camp level. We had Somerville Johnston, who some of you may know, come up and for a weekend and facilitated workshops with new staff training and also with all of our staff, as well as one-on-one sessions for folks. And that was really productive and staff took a lot from that. We also, one of our big projects here at Table Rock has been finding ways to utilize our outdoor spaces for both students and staff. Sabrina has a few photos to share, but earlier this season, at the beginning of February, I had some folks reach out to me about how they could support the Table Rock community at the start of our season. And we ended up repurposing an unused space here at base camp. And as you can see in the photos, created this like outdoor classroom / social space that has been vital in staff trainings and hosting student banquets and general community gathering space, for there to be a space that's outside. You'll see we have a new projector. We've had many movie nights, both with some of our students on long courses and staff, which has been really good for overall community health. So thanks there are several folks on this call that were a big part of making that happen, and that's been a game changer here at Table Rock. For me personally, I was actually the caretaker here all of last year during 2020. So it was a pretty powerful experience to both watch everybody leave this base camp at kind of the start of COVID and the start of Outward Bound taking a hibernation period, of NCOBs taking a hibernation period, and then being here to welcome folks back home at the beginning of the season. And it was wild to watch this base camp kind of get like overrun by Mother Nature again. You know, I couldn't weed eat the whole base. There were mushrooms growing everywhere, and it's now back and looking beautiful, but it was interesting, and I think spoke a lot to where we were as a nation, and just like quiet isolation. I'm really thankful for the school for letting me live here and take care of this place while we were in a pause. One of my biggest goals this season is I'm working really hard to build some relationships in the local community around Table Rock, as well as with the Forest Service. We have a few staff members going to the chainsaw training coming up next weekend, so we'll have some certified folks to use chainsaws on our property, which will be huge for maintenance and opening up some cool spaces for students. Generally, I'm feeling really grateful and inspired by the work that our staff are doing in the field right now, and appreciate all of you, because I know it really does take a community. It takes a village. Thank you, Ken and Sanji, for asking me to come tonight.
Well, you're welcome. And Styles, thanks for being our PD at Table Rock. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday when I come back and spend time for our staff and celebrate your hard work and say thank you for what you're doing, and see our town office staff all next week. But, you know, again, great report. As you see, we're moving forward, and we're crossing that bridge towards, you know, a new day. Now, let me share this with you. Hey, Alex, do you have any more you want to share? Just cause, but I think you gave a great report earlier. Alex is good, but you know, this last year has been challenging. I mean, Dave, you asked that questions. I think Styles answered. We had no programming in 2020, and then we had things we had to deal with as a NCOBs family, and we've really grown and expanded. And you know, I just wrote some thoughts I want to share with you about, you know, part of our expansion, because anchored in Kurt Hahn's tradition and NCOB's core values, NCOBs continues to grow, learn, listen, and expand the ways which advance our core mission. But I'm really proud of our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee and the work they've done to enhance our ability to love and serve others. As servant leaders, we always work to connect with our community from a place of grace, dignity, authenticity, and respect. And over the last year, this dedicated group of staff and board members have worked together to explore how we can better understand and serve our staff and students, whether through seminars, policy reviews, and real heart-to-heart discussions between one another. This work builds upon our never-changing core values and evolves our ability to further include and respect those who grace our school. And, you know, with those thoughts, I was wondering, Carrie, if you can just share what's been happening with our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. Carrie?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So I'm one of the members of the committee as well as being the advancement director. And we've done a lot over the last year, and that's been really great, I think, for the community. It's also really provided us an opportunity to direct our focus around these initiatives in multiple different aspects of the school, not just programming, but also and throughout the department as a whole, or departments as a whole. So for us, what we've had from the assessment that we received last year is that departments have taken that assessment, and they've developed priorities this year that they're working on, and they have that placed into their work plans for the year. And that's been a really good, helpful place to start making things really workable for departments to really kind of embrace. In one aspect, you heard Styles share that they've had some justice, equity, training specific there at their staff trainings they've had this year. So that's been fantastic. We've also had education sessions. Those education sessions have been for staff, and that's been great to have in terms of you have the town office staff, you have instructor staff participating in those, and we've had discussions around land acknowledgements, around diversity in the outdoors, gender equity. So just all sorts of subjects for us to gather around, have an expert share and discuss with us, and then for us to discuss how that pertains specifically to NCOBs. And we've even had our advisory boards embrace it. Our Charlotte Advisory Board, they actually facilitated a virtual circle up on diversity in the outdoors, and we had guest panel discussion with that, and it was fantastic, well attended, and really just kind of shows to the direction that we're headed. So overall, we feel like JEDI initiatives have been moving in the right direction, and we've had great response within the community about how that's rolling along.
Sure. Hey, Carrie, thank you so much for that update. And just speaks to, we know who we are as an NCOBS family. We always have to reach out and ensure that we're being inclusive and saying thank you and please in the way that people hear us. So thank you, Carrie. And I've used the word evolve quite a bit because we have evolved, but we don't change who we are. We grow who we are. And in fact, Sabrina, I think you have some things to share of how we have this new campaign, because we have crossed the bridge, continue to ask those questions, return to the field and share what we have to teach for our students, but constantly ask ourselves, how do we get better and evolve, thrive, grow? So tell us about our campaign, Sabrina.
Yes, so this evolved from something that Ken said. Actually, you hear him saying it now, but he used the words evolve, grow, thrive, and it really just resonated with us as staff members thinking about how we could share that message out. And so we have been sharing that message publicly. We have some new gear that you can order. I'll share a link in just a moment for that. But also starting this next week, we are doing part of the grow portion where you can write yourself a 6-month letter, just like we ask participants to do on course, and you can mail it to the town office and we will keep it for 6 months and mail it back to you. So if you are looking for a moment of reflection after a very interesting year, we would love to have you participate. So I'll share the link in the chat, and there will also be a follow-up email from this town hall that will include information about it. So big shout out to Ken for the idea, and Nicole Fava, our Associate Director of Marketing, for really making it happen. And it's beautiful. It was truly a team effort, and we hope that you will join us and participate. So,
hey, thanks a lot, Sabrina. It's not thanks for attributing to me, but you just see it and who we are. John Webster's on this call, and I went over to John's house, when I was in Asheville, and we talked, and the seeds he planted have evolved and grown. Shoot, I talked to Dan Meyer, Mayor, I'm sorry, I always say his last name wrong, and he wrote a book in 1974 about NCOBs and our spirit. And when I read that book and I called him and we chatted on the phone, he said, brother, back in 1974, the issues you're facing at NCOBs are facing you now. And it's all about our people and how we love one another and take care of one another. Never change who we are, but know that we invest and we pour into one another to expand and thrive. So, what we do together in this town hall, what we do together moving forward, what we do together with a new ED, what we do together as alumni, staff, board members, means that we reach out and help other people love themselves, love others, and know they can do more than they ever thought. But I'm talking too much right now. So anybody got any questions about programming? Like Dave Spicer had in the chat, he says, how'd you do virtual programming? And you know what's fantastic about that is that although we couldn't get back into the field, the creativity of our people, the initiative of our people reached out, you know, whether it's schools or businesses, and through this computer, this Zoom link, connected and shared the principles of who we are in a new medium, where we evolved during a crisis. You know, any other questions about where we're going, what we're doing, and why I'm the luckiest guy in the world being the interim ED of NCOS?
And you can put your questions in the chat box, or you can just pop on video if you'd like and ask your question, say hello. We would love to hear them.
Dave again. Dave, what you got?
I'm sorry, I'm full of questions. I'm just delighted to be here coming from Seattle. I fond memories of Table Rock. Bob Box was our rock climbing instructor at that time, and a guy by the name of Mike Fischester was the program director. I think Mike is still connected with the program. I'm not sure. Is he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, yes.
I saw him the other day.
I have to share a funny story. It's not a question, it was just when we were there, our training was in early May. We were back for about 2 weeks for our staff training, and this would have been May of 1976. And Fischester would come down to the different huts we were in. We're sound asleep. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. And he had told us we can sleep until 5:30. Well, Fischester started throwing rocks on the roof at 5 a.m. a half an hour early. And we had to go around the road. And we just had, you know, that I have such fond memories of the staff training because it built such great connections. And we did everything. We did caving, we did rock climbing, we did kayaking, rafting, you know, all the orienteering. It was just a lot of things. And I have fond memories. And that was, it's hard to believe it was 35 years ago. And I still do a lot of mountaineering and backpacking and all of that good stuff. So I attribute it back to my North Carolina roots. But the only question that I have is, I had fond memories at Green Cove. And I don't think, it's probably been years since we've been there. But I'm just curious, whatever happened to Green Cove, if anybody, any of the staff know?
Yeah.
I can answer that actually. It was in a trust and was actually given back to the Boy Scouts, who are the original owners of the property through the trust that it had. So they actually have possession of that now.
Okay.
And I guess they're using it for high adventure programs.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you. Love being here.
Hey, Dave, we love the fact that you are here and you're part of this family. Thank you. All right. Hey, I know Sanjay had a shout out to Rufus Dalton earlier. Hey, Rufus, good seeing you, brother.
It's good to see you all.
All right.
I'd like to follow up on Mike Fischester there, Dave.
Yeah.
He's been good about organizing former instructors and people connect with Outward Bound and focusing them on a particular project. They've been in the Green Cove and renovated it about 3 or 4 years ago, even though it had been turned back to the Boy Scouts. It wasn't in good condition. Mike harnessed all those former instructors and people connected with it, took them over there and they renovated the place. And I'd like to say hi to John Webster. Awful good to see you back in it, buddy. That's all I've got to say. I'm happy about those two guys.
There you go. There you go, sir. Happy about you. Hey, just going back to the chat real quick.
Can I say something? I'm not sure how to
go
do
ahead.
it.
I'm sorry, Brother Webster. I'm just talking over you. Go right ahead, man.
I just wanted to say to Joe Beckham, you were the executive director we almost had. You would have been fabulous. Florida State got you instead, but thanks for the shout out.
Joe.
I was heard.
Where's Joe? I didn't see Joe before. Hey, Joe Beckham.
I'm
love you, brother.
Challenged.
Go Knowles, baby. Go Knowles. Hey, John, thank you for that. Hey, real quick, I'm gonna go to the chat. There's a question about how testing is going. You know, testing has gone very well. And Styles, jump in if you want to, because you're on the ground. But, you know, in my role, working with Dev, you know, and also Alex, you know, we've, you know, institute testing. I think we're looking at moving forward with rapid testing in the future. And I know, you know, from talking to Alex, we had one situation because the protocol is testing before, and then we come to course, and we had someone test prior, and they tested with COVID, and they didn't come. And it shows me that, look, we're protecting our people. So the procedures work well. Styles, you want to add anything that you know?
Sure. Yeah. So every student, before they even show up at the course start location, is required to get a PCR, so molecular lab test, done within 72 hours of their arrival. And then we, as field staff, are facilitating a antigen rapid test at course start. And then courses longer than 9 days will receive another PCR molecular lab test on day 6. And after that second test that we give, if everybody tests negative, the crew can become what we are calling a household, which means they can not wear masks. They don't need to maintain distance. They can basically resume as a crew that like we all probably know of from previous to COVID. But yeah, the testing's been great. It's been super smooth. We have had no problems. Everybody's tested negative. And staff get tested at a minimum once a month, but every field staff gets tested with the course that they're on. So I get tested once a month. Everybody else is getting tested more frequent than that.
So what happens if somebody tests within the 3 days or so before the trip? How does the refunding work, or how is that going to work? Because it's a lot of money to spend to get.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had that happen. One of our students who was signed up for the semester tested positive prior to arriving, and the student service folks is working with that student on getting on another semester later in the season. And they've also done a really great job of making sure our courses have wait lists. And so we were actually able to fill that student spot within like a 48-hour window of course start. But students are being moved to other courses if they test positive. And if we have a student who tests positive, or they just have to show some proof that that positive test result was more than 14 days prior to the course start.
So I'm on an executive course in the fall. So moving to another time doesn't really work because we're all one group of people. So that's sort of, my concern. I don't know how,
Sure.
so I would really not be able to take a course then, because our group would already go and have done that. So
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not in student services. That would be a great question for them. And I can't imagine that we wouldn't refund somebody money if they weren't able to come due to COVID.
okay.
Sure. And let me jump on two things that are related to what Styles had to share. Styles, thank you. In general, for the outward bound school system, we're seeing high demand. For NCOBs in particular, we do have a waiting list. We've been running at 50% because of our protocols ensure safety for our staff and students. We are working constantly and regularly with OB safety team to revisit our protocols as things change. I can say that our staff, whether in town office or in the field, folks have been getting vaccinated, and we're collecting information. And looking at the summer and the fall for protocols, Alex, he had to leave this call at 6, has been in close discussion about how we continue to monitor conditions on the ground, protect our people, but also be reasonable with, increase in vaccination, and as we learn more about conditions for COVID. So this is not a static thing, but being very dynamic, safety-minded, and responding, not reacting. All right. Any other questions? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to say 2 words I normally say at the beginning, but I'll say at the end. Thank you. Thank you all for what you do. When it comes down to it, we can't do this without you. And your role in this family, it changes from student, staff, alumni, staff, student. It's constant. But what is never changing is who we are. And we'll always remember our core principles, but we'll constantly evolve how we learn, adapt, and include those who believe in what we believe. I am so grateful for our heritage and our legacy. I'm so grateful for your contributions and this time together. And also, I'm grateful to show up on October 12th at 5:30 to our next town hall. At our next town hall, like Sanji say, you might see my shining face, but you see our new ED, who will be a great leader, who will continue building on our legacy. We would have crossed that bridge from the past towards the future with that leader. And hopefully, I would have made a contribution to this organization like John Webster and others, because I stand on the shoulder of giants, knowing I have a responsibility while I'm here to take care of our staff, serve our students, and ensure I hold the light of who we are. And it burns brighter and brighter as we get more air and more oxygen to expand towards the future. With that, folks, as a family, see you in October.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate
Have a
your
good
work,
night.
Ken.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.